we got to get it over to the bench, start wiring this thing up. Whew. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So since we've already tested everything to make sure it works, really now it just comes down to making sure the wires are all the right length on the iData side. But what we did is we went ahead and put the phone back in, and we saw where this cable was gonna sit, which is right about here. It's gonna come in through one of these holes and up to the crossovers. The crossovers are gonna be more over this way, so what we need to go ahead and do is lengthen these out probably about 2 feet, just so that we're sure we have enough to service it and do all the fun stuff involved. And, you know, we have to lift it up or down or anything like that so it doesn't get in the way. First on the list, lengthen these, then get everything mounted. Enjoy this beautiful time lapse of us putting this all together on the bench. Alright, we just got done wiring up the amplifier on the bench. That's part 1 of 2. The second half is going to be wiring up the DSR1 into its little panel, but let's take a look at it. I just got it into the car. Here we go. The panel is in place. The power wire is going out and down. You can see right now I just ran it, so it's still hanging out here on the floor. It's all covered in the flexed loom. As we talked about earlier, there's that little tunnel here where all the other stuff, this is where the DSR1 goes, and I'm getting ready to work on now. But this is all in place, so Fernando can go ahead and start running that portion of the car, which is just power wire going down here, and then the only thing going on this side is going to be for the bass knob. So let's head back over to the bench and wire up the DSR1. Hopefully that won't take as long as wiring these amplifiers. Alright, so the DSR1 is all wired up and ready to go. We were using the PLC2 bass knob so we can control the bass from this and not the amplifier. We have our front and sub outputs. The other ones we just went ahead and capped off because we're not going to be using those. And then these two plugs here are going to plug into that Sony amplifier along with the third one that's already in the car that we already installed. Now we just need to grab this guy right here, put it into the car, and then the back will be complete. So the DSR1, like I said, we knew the DSR1 went there. It's all here. Those are those factory Sony plugs. So this is how it looked. All put back to factory. These covers are going to cover it. This is the sub wire right here for that guy we talked about earlier. I don't know, this is part of the factory, so it didn't have to come out, so it stayed put. This was the factory sub here. It's just not hooked up anymore. It looked kind of silly with it out, so I went ahead and put it back in. You still have this cargo space right here. I mean, if he wants more space, obviously he can take this out on his own and, I don't know, use it for something. Maybe some jumper cable. Fernando's finishing up running the wire. He's just getting it through the firewall now. We went up the passenger side, as we said earlier, because there is a grommet right there that we could go through. So obviously we took this glove box area out here, and that allowed us to get the power wire through the firewall. Now we'll run it across, and then the power will be hooked up.
What we're gonna do here is we're trying to make a fuse mount, but we don't have enough space. We have a really nice carbon fiber, and we don't want to damage, or we don't want to drill next to it. What we come out is we're gonna drill a hole in this bracket in the metal, and then we're gonna make a L bracket ABS really thin right here, and then from there we can screw our fuse mount. So let's go to the bench and do that.
You finished?
I'm done.
All right, let's take a look at what we got going on here. As we said, we came out over here. The only way we could figure out to get the wire from here to here was we went up inside of the vent here and then came back out over here. And then here's the fuse holder. It bolts in right here as he described earlier, locks it in place. Go ahead and throw the cover back over it. Clicks in, all's good. All right, so we're done with the install. We'll see you guys next. Oh no, okay, sorry, didn't mean to. So now that we're done with the install, of course we have a couple of the obvious things we need to do. We're gonna turn it on, make sure it works in the first place. That would be good. We'll pair it to our iPad. We'll do polarity check. We'll do all the fun things that we normally do once we get the car in, and then we'll actually sit down and take a listen to it. So we still have a little bit of time before we actually get to tuning it and seeing how good or bad we can make it sound. Let's get started, shall we? One quick thing that we're gonna talk about the crossovers for these T2 components that come with that big crossover, this. And on the sides of it here, and here is a switch. So one of the switches is for the tweeter as far as boost goes. You have plus 2 dB, 0, and negative 2 dB on the tweeter. The other switch is for on axis and off axis, and that has to do with the tweeter relative to where you're sitting in the car. Is it on axis with you or off axis with you? And let me show you what I mean. So Rockford does a really nice job of explaining what they mean by that. Tweeters on axis, they're on the same axis as you. This would be like up in the dash aimed towards you. And then off axis would be, in this case, where the tweeter is mounted on the door, firing directly across into one another. Default setting is for this guy here, off axis, because this is very common. That'll make the tweeter sound better. Most tweeter crossovers don't have a feature like that. This is a premium speaker, so it's got a premium feature. Right, Fernando?
Right.
Polarity test good. We only have the 4 front speakers to test. The rears aren't hooked up to anything, so nothing to test there. So we'll go ahead and launch the app. So we'll go ahead and launch the Perfect Tune app, and we'll take it into the car and pair it to our DSP. Press the Bluetooth icon on the bottom. That's going to show it connected here. We can tap on it. We can look at the information. This is going to tell us the serial number, the hardware version, firmware. It's going to tell us the Maestro serial number, what it's flashed to, the hardware version. So it's gonna give us all the information about what we have in the unit itself. And we'll start going through the unit and getting everything set up. What we wanna do is go ahead and do the distortion detector on these two amplifiers and make sure we can maximize the gain output. Play track 7. All right, play track 9. So the cool thing about this is we got no clip indication with the volume turned all the way up, so that's good. Now we'll go ahead and plug them back in. Always unplug the speakers when you're doing this, even the cross. Make sure these aren't hooked up. Unplug it here. You don't want to run that test tone through these. Just letting you know you guys want to hear the big sub in the back. We'll get to that. I'm not going to not do it because you guys get upset when I don't. So don't worry, we're going to hear that. We're playing a few more songs. Of course, we're listening to our Maroon 5. And it pounds, you know, it's good. That's for sure. We've already been in here for about a half hour, 45 minutes. So this takes time. This one's a done. Yeah, how do you like it?
I like it.
You like it?
Yeah.
With that, you guys have a great day. We'll see you later. Bye.
On to the next one.